Did you see Caitlin Clark get poked in the eye during that playoff game? It's not just a fluke. The WNBA is getting too physical, and it's putting our favorite players at risk. But here's the real question. Is this ruining the beautiful game we all love? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Picture this. Clark's driving to the hoop, she's on fire, and then bam! An accidental finger to the eye stops her in her tracks. The crowd goes silent, teammates rush over, and suddenly it's not about the game anymore. It's about player safety. This isn't just about Caitlin though. It's happening all over the WNBA. Players are getting rougher, games are getting more physical, and fans are starting to worry. Is this what we want for women's basketball? But don't worry, we're not just here to point out problems. We're gonna look at some game-changing solutions too. Ready to dive in? Let's go. All right, we're about to get real. Remember when basketball was about skill and finesse? Well, the WNBA is taking a different turn. Players are speaking out, injuries are piling up, and fans are starting to ask, is this still the game we fell in love with? Let's talk numbers for a second. Caitlin Clark received a whopping 177% of the WNBA's flagrant fouls this season. That's not a typo. One player almost doubled the league's flagrant fouls. And get this, 80% of those came from just one team, the Chicago Sky. It's like they had a personal vendetta or something. But it's not just about Clark. The whole league is getting rougher. Players are hitting harder, defending more aggressively, and the beautiful game we know is starting to look more like a battlefield. You know it's bad when players themselves are sounding the alarm. Imagine you're a WNBA star. You've trained your whole life to perfect your jump shot, your crossover, your no-look pass. But now, every time you step on the court, you're not just worried about making plays. You're worried about making it through the game in one piece. That's the reality for many players right now. And it's not just affecting their physical health. This increased physicality is changing how the game is played. Players are hesitating before driving to the basket. They're second-guessing those flashy plays that get fans on their feet. The game is losing its flow, its grace, and honestly, a lot of what makes it exciting to watch. Now, don't get me wrong. Basketball has always been a physical sport. A little contact here and there is part of the game. But there's a line between competitive play and dangerous play. And the WNBA is dangerously close to crossing it. Here's where it gets really interesting. The WNBA is at a crossroads. On one side, you've got the old school fans who appreciate the toughness, the grit. They say, this is how the game should be played. On the other side, you've got a new wave of fans who fell in love with the WNBA for its skill, its strategy, its finesse. They're watching these games and thinking, this isn't what I signed up for. And you know what's crazier? This divide isn't just in the stands, it's on the court too. You've got players who grew up idolizing the physical play of the past, going head-to-head with a new generation of players who want to showcase their skills without fear of injury. So, what's the WNBA to do? They're in a tough spot, push too hard against physicality, and they risk alienating longtime fans and players who see it as part of the game's DNA. Don't push hard enough, and they risk losing the new fans and players who are the future of the league. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about player safety or fan preference. This is about the future of the WNBA itself. Think about it. If star players are constantly injured or playing cautiously, the quality of the game drops. If the quality drops, fewer people watch. Fewer viewers mean less money, less exposure, and ultimately, a league that struggles to grow and thrive. Now, imagine you're the one with the whistle. You've got star players getting roughed up, coaches yelling, and fans ready to riot. What do? This is the referee's dilemma, and it's tearing the WNBA apart. Let's talk about the people in stripes for a second. Refs are supposed to be the guardians of fair play, right? But lately, it feels like they're more like spectators than officials. Players are getting knocked around, and the whistles are staying silent. What's going on? Here's the thing. Refereeing in the WNBA isn't just about calling fouls. It's about setting the tone for the entire game. When refs let aggressive plays slide, it sends a message. Suddenly, players think they can get away with more, and the game gets rougher. It's like a snowball effect, but instead of snow, it's elbows and shoves. And you know what's really messing things up? Inconsistent calls. 1 minute, they're calling every little touch. The next, it's like they've forgotten the rulebook at home. Fans are going crazy trying to figure out what's a foul and what's not. It's like watching a game where the rules change every quarter. Now, here's where it gets tricky. There's this debate going on about whether star players should get special treatment. You know, like how some folks say LeBron James gets all the calls in the NBA. Some people are saying the WNBA needs to protect its stars more. Others are yelling about fairness and how everyone should be treated the same. But here's the real kicker. Fans are getting fed up. They're not just griping about bad calls anymore. They're worried that poor officiating is actually hurting the league. Think about it. If games are turning into wrestling matches, are people going to want to watch? Are parents going to want their kids playing? So what's the solution? Some folks are saying we need to completely overhaul how games are officiated. They're talking about stricter training for refs, maybe even bringing in more technology to help make calls. Others are pushing for clearer guidelines on what counts as a foul. But it's not just about making more calls. It's about making the right calls. Imagine a WNBA where the refs are so good, so consistent, that players know exactly what they can and can't do. No more guessing games, no more frustration. Just pure, skillful basketball. Here's a wild idea. What if the WNBA took a page from other sports? Like how soccer uses VAR for big decisions, or how tennis has the challenge system. Could something like that work in basketball? It might slow the game down a bit, but if it means fairer play and fewer injuries, isn't it worth it? The thing is, this isn't just about making the game safer or fairer. It's about the future of the WNBA. Good officiating could be the key to unlocking a whole new level of play. Imagine games where players feel free to show off their skills without worrying about getting hurt, where fans are on the edge of their seats because of amazing plays, not because they're waiting for the next foul. You know how we just talked about imagining a better WNBA? Well, get this. There's already a blueprint for making it happen. The NBA faced similar issues and made some game-changing moves. Could the WNBA be next? Let's talk about the NBA for a second. Remember when games were like watching paint dry? Scores in the 80s, players getting knocked around, and fans falling asleep in their seats. Not exactly must-see TV, right? But then something amazing happened. The NBA decided to shake things up. They tweaked the rules, and boom! Suddenly, we're seeing scores in the 100s, players showing off their skills, and fans losing their minds. It was like someone hit the turbo button on basketball. And you know what? The WNBA could do the same thing. Imagine a WNBA where players aren't afraid to drive to the hoop, where defenders have to use their brains, not just their brawn, where every game is a highlight reel waiting to happen. Sounds pretty sweet, doesn't it? So, what kind of changes are we talking about? Well, for starters, how about cracking down on hand checking? That's when defenders use their hands to slow down offensive players. It's like trying to run with someone constantly pushing you. Not fun, and definitely not good for showing off skills. Or what about tweaking the 3-second rule? That's the one that keeps big players from camping out in the paint. Make it stricter, and suddenly you've got more room for fancy footwork and creative plays. It's like turning the court into a playground for skilled players. And here's a wild idea. What if we messed with the shot clock? Shorten it a bit, and suddenly teams have to play faster. More possessions, more chances to score, more excitement. It's like hitting fast forward on the game. Now, I know what you're thinking. Won't this make the game too soft? Not at all. It's not about taking the physicality out of basketball. It's about finding the right balance. We want a game where players can show off their skills without feeling like they're in a wrestling match. Think about it. A WNBA where players are free to be creative, where speed and agility matter more than size and strength, where every possession is a chance to see something amazing. That's the kind of basketball that gets people talking, tweeting, and buying tickets. And it's not just about making the game more exciting to watch, it's about player safety too. If we can reduce the number of hard hits and rough plays, we're looking at fewer injuries. That means star players stay on the court, rookies get a chance to develop their skills, and everyone wins. But here's the real kicker. These changes could be a game changer for the WNBA's popularity. Think about it. More exciting games mean more fans. More fans mean more money. More money means better salaries, better facilities, and a stronger league overall. It's like a domino effect of awesomeness. And let's not forget about the next generation. Imagine young girls watching these high-flying, skill-focused games. They're not just seeing athletes, they're seeing superheroes. Role models who inspire them to pick up a basketball and start practicing their crossovers. That's how you grow a sport. Of course, change isn't easy. There will be pushback. Some players might struggle to adapt. Some fans might grumble about the good old days, but that's the price of progress. And if the NBA's success is anything to go by, it's a price worth paying. All right, let's wrap this up. We've seen how the WNBA is getting too physical. Refs are struggling, and changes could make the game better. But you know what's really going to shape the future? Us fans. Caitlin Clark said it herself. The physicality is probably going to be one of the biggest things for myself. And Breanna Stewart added, "This is the best league in the world. Nobody's going to give you anything easy." They're right. The WNBA is tough, but it doesn't have to be dangerous. Imagine a WNBA where skill shines, players are safe, and every game's a thrill. We can make it happen. How? By speaking up. Share your thoughts on balancing physicality and skill. Let's build a WNBA that's exciting, fair, and keeps us on the edge of our seats. That's a future worth cheering for.